Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I am Stephen Means, and that is Andrew Gillis, and this is another episode of What's Up with the Future of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Right now, they have a 2027 class that is ranked 5th nationally with 19 commits. This is according to the On3 Rivals rankings, and they have a 2028 class that is ranked 1st nationally. And today, the subject matter is, what are the 3 most important storylines surrounding Ohio State recruiting as the focus shifts from the future to the right now for the team on the field? But recruiting never stops, right? It never stops. You're always recruiting, right? Even if it doesn't really make sense in this world to always be recruiting, you're always recruiting. It never quite
That's the
stops.
understatement of the century.
Yeah, it never stops, man.
It doesn't always make sense.
Yeah, man. Listen, sometimes you're going through your 3rd practice of fall camp. It's nice and hot outside, and you get off the field, and 2.5 hours later, 5-star quarterback commits to you. And sometimes it's the middle of the summer, and you think everything's all good. You think you're going to get a running back of the future, and then Tennessee comes in and drops a bag. And so, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Sometimes things go your way, sometimes they don't go your way. Gillis, what is the number one most important storyline surrounding the Ohio State recruiting operation as it enters the spring? And again, it's not like relative to any class. We can talk, if you want to talk about 2035 class on here, if there's a 6th grader out there that you think Ohio State needs to start evaluating right now, you can talk about them. I will look at you weird, but you can do it.
If there was a 6th grader out there that I was like, this guy's going to be the next superstar, one of 2 things could happen. Number one, Ohio State and every other program in the country says that guy has the best eye for talent in the country. Please take $500,000 a year and come work for us because we need your talent eye. And 2, we'd get on our podcast and we'd look and say, why are all our subscribers leaving? And that'd be because we're talking about kids that were born, what would that be, 2017, the 2035 class, 18 years old. So yeah, so that would not be good. Look, the number one thing that I would say is just kind of generally what is next for Ohio State, and here's and
for those who can see the video element, there is my cat Ducky is she's just a chatty patty, so just ignore her. Continue.
Guest appearance.
I'm the only one at the house right now, and she gets like weirded out if she thinks she's in the house by herself, so we have to leave the door open for her. So sorry, guys.
The thing that I'm looking to is like, okay, where does Ohio State go? And this is for the 2027 class. So last year, if I have my numbers right, Ohio State added 11 players from September 1st through signing day. Tell me if any of these names sound notable to you and to you guys, the listeners. Jay Timmons, Legend Bay, Braxton Rebert, Emmanuel Ruffin, Dre Quinn, Kamari Bing, Darius McKinley, Nick Lauder, Caden Gebhardt, Landry Reed, Mason Wilhelm. Okay, that's 11. Ohio State went out and landed someone who they think is going to be a starting slot corner, or at least they think he could be a starting slot corner, and they added him in season. He was a Florida State commit. I asked Earl Little about this a couple of days ago, where I was like, did you know him? Did you have a relationship? And he's like, I hosted him on some visits. And then I was like, oh, interesting. And then he just went, yeah, so we know each other. And then he just stopped. So there's a relationship there. Earl knows about this kid. Ohio State has known about Jay for a while. They can go get some pretty significant pieces in the 2027 class. And I think, as Ryan Day has alluded to, like, you have to be sure of your investments pretty quickly, right? Like, you have to be a program that understands what you're investing in, who you're investing in, why you're investing in them, because it is no longer just like time. And like for many college football programs around the country, it was like, money? What money? Money doesn't players have never been paid before. And now it's like, well, hey, actually we're paying these kids a lot of money, and the dollar figures are getting floated, and agents are involved. And when all that happens, you've got to have certainty. When you go buy a car, you want to test drive the car. You want to look up other different cars. You want to research cars. You want to talk to people who have had that car. You want to talk to people who have known people who have had that car. And you want to know everything about that car. And it's kind of the same thing for a recruiting operation. You want to know everything about that player. And there's a reason why, like, the NFL is almost more effective in finding out information on a person than like the federal government. Because if they know that, you know, you skipped class in 7th grade, you know, the NFL will figure that out. And I think colleges are trying to figure that out too. And what does that mean? Ohio State is probably going to have another couple of additions here when we get through into the fall. They're at 19 right now. Mark Pantoni told me, and I believe he said this elsewhere as well, last year's 28-man class is like, you're not going to be pushing 30 every year. You're not going to be pushing 30 most years because the high school recruiting operation has just gotten so expensive. So I think Ohio State's going to add probably 3 to 5 more. So it's about retention. Probably going to add a couple of more. They don't have a running back in the class, as we have harped on for weeks now. They don't have a running back in the class. You have 2 receivers. Wondering if they try to dip in and get a third. You love Chris Henry Jr. They love Brock Boyd. Those are 2 freshmen. You have Jameer Brown coming in next year. Devin McEwen has an extra year. Kyle Parker has an extra year. Like, they've got a lot of options, but I am wondering if they try to add a third. They don't have a tight end. We'll see if tight end is a position that they really want to focus on. They have a host of tight ends now. There is this argument of, do you want to commit money and commit all of this for a prospect who probably won't see the field for a few years just because of tight end development? Offensive line, you're good. Defensive line, you're good. Both those are about retention. We've talked about that. Linebacker, you're probably good. You have 2. You have Prince Goldsby, and you have Quentin Cypher. Corner, you have 2. You're okay. Safety, you have 2. You have Angelo Smith and Eli Johnson. I would bet there's maybe another coming in that group in the secondary. So, like, if I had to say if they had 4, hypothetically, I would bet running back. I would bet defensive back. I still think they'll probably add a tight end and then maybe receiver. So there's going to be some flip candidates here for Ohio State. So it's what is next. And I think, as we saw last year, Ohio State is not afraid to find senior film and say, we feel good about this kid.
They found Jay Timmons in like October.
Mm-hmm. I think it was October and November that he decided to. November 6th was when he committed to Ohio State. So
which means they found him in like October and finished flipping him by November, and now he might start on September 5th.
Right.
He's been associated with the Ohio State football program for less than a year. He might be a starter on September. Mm-hmm. I mean, if he's not a starter, we all are expecting him to have some level of a role. There's it's an interesting play because there's value. There's growing value in that when Ryan Day is saying that that your evaluation of a player is becoming the most important thing. Sure, there's going to be early additions, right? Like guys like DJ Jacobs and Jet Harrison and Jameer Weiss now in that 2028 class. There's always going to be people who fit we're taking them. And then we'll figure the rest out later. But if the rest of your class, if half of your class is, I'll say that if a fourth of your class is we took them as early as we could humanly take them, then another fourth of your class is like we continued to build a relationship, and then you see it around June. They start popping. Another fourth of your class is your quarterback situation. And then the other fourth are let's see senior film. Yeah. I mean, that's how you would map out a draft class, right? You've got guys that you would classify as like day 1 picks, guys you would classify as day 2 picks, guys you would classify as, day 3 additions, and guys maybe who are even undrafted free agents. And then you have those years where it's like, well, we're going to draft a quarterback here.
And what do you do when you build out a draft class? You draft the guy in the first round because, hey, this dude kicked ass at Ohio State or Clemson, or Clemson's a bad example now, but Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, Oregon. Like, hey, like that's where you see a lot of these dudes go, right? Like I know, like you have number 1 pick Indiana. national champion. Number 2 pick, Texas Tech. You can go down the line. But then when you get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, you see dudes that are coming off the board because they don't have the athletic traits, or they maybe are battling an injury, or maybe they came from a smaller school, or all of these things. And I think that applies pretty significantly to high school. I mean, who knows where Isaiah West would have been ranked if he had a full senior season. Like, maybe Isaiah West is one of those players that ends at number 180, despite being in like the 600s, I think, when Ohio State took him, right? Like, who knows where some of these guys can end up if there's an injury, or, maybe they play at a, I guess in Ohio that would be like, like Division 7 or Division 6, right? Like, you play at like a really small school. Like, those are kids that you can afford to take time on because you love their athleticism, you love their traits, you love what they can be. They're really smart, but they're growing into their body. They didn't get a chance. They got hurt. And I think that is kind of what you're going to start to see here from Ohio State. And I think it is about as NFL as you can get, because they've got 2 NFL coordinators. Coaches on the staff have played in the NFL. That's not rare, or that's not unique, but they've also coached in the NFL. You're talking about investments in players and first round picks. Like, this is becoming an NFL operation, and you need your blue chippers to win a Super Bowl. You need your blue chippers to win a national championship. But almost as importantly are the host of players that fill out the back half of your lineup, right? Like, hey, it's great that Indiana had Fernando Mendoza, but some of those dudes on that defense that were not highly rated or not highly recruited or not, highly touted were just as important for that national championship victory. And I think Ohio State's looking to do the same.
So what's number 2?
Yeah, believe it or not, quarterback is important. And I want to know maybe what this Christopher Vargas commitment means. And I want to see kind of how this all plays out. So what I mean by that is this. Ohio State in 2026, in the 2026 class, they took Luke Fahey. They took him late. It was like first couple of days of July, where he commits to Ohio State. Okay. Had a 2025 5-star with Tavian St. Clair. Yeah. Okay. You go get a development guy, someone you think, essentially put your head down, work your butt off for 2 years, and then look up and see where you're at in year 3. And if we like where you're at, all right, you get a shot. If not, maybe it's best for both of us to find another opportunity. And I think that's totally fair. 2027 is where obviously it got wonky. You have Brady Edmonds. You took him a couple of days after the Michigan loss in 2024. And it got weird. But if you could just ignore this blip, like, as we're recording this, we had massive storms in Columbus on Tuesday morning. Look, the sky turned green. If you could just ignore that little thing, you can probably say, hey, it actually was a pretty nice day. And I think you could probably do that with the Brady Edmonds commitment, where you could say, okay, let's put aside that 2-month brouhaha of just what was going on. Is he going to stay? Is Ohio State going to look elsewhere? And I think you can look at this and say, Ohio State took a kid who could throw a ball through a wall because his arm strength is really, really talented. I think it's the mobility, which is why he maybe has fallen down a little bit, and the dual threat questions. But he's still a top 250 quarterback. Loves Ohio State, loves the program. Good kid. Like, I think you feel solid about where you're at. Then you go get Vargas, the 5-star. So what does that mean for 28? And I think what happens with how Ohio State maybe operates the next few months could be pretty indicative of how they see this next era of quarterback recruiting going. Because what I mean by that is you took a 5-star with Tavian, lower rated guy with Luke, early guy with Brady who turned, 4-star type of player, and then you go back into the well with 5-star. And I'm wondering if you're just going to be in this every 3-year 5-star. Does Ryan Day want to take a 5-star every year? Like, is that smart? it's a dumb question to ask, and I think
I don't think it is. I think
it's a
it
dumb
isn't.
question to ask Day. I just don't know if August is the right time.
Yeah, no, it is. I think this is. I mean, it just happened. So, like, honestly, if we talk to Dale on Saturday, and that's what you want to spend your question to ask him, I think that is a valuable use of your time. I think trying to figure out how to get an answer that's not just him going to year, because there was a time when it's just like, no, we're just going to go get the best quarterback we could get, and that there's a run in there where they did that. CJ Stroud was a borderline 5-star recruit in 2020. Kyle McCord was a 5-star in 2021. Quinn Ewers was a 5-star, the 5-star in 2022, even if he reclassified to 21, where he was still the number 1 player in the country. Devin Brown was they found him late, but he's a top 100 recruit. Yeah. Jack Miller in 2020, who was the first quarterback they added in that cycle, was a top 100 recruit when they found him. And then they backed off of that. And some of the reason they backed off of that is because, I don't know, when you go top 100 recruit, 5-star, top 100 recruit, at some point the 5-star top 100 recruits are going to go, that is a loaded room. That is a lot to cipher through. I'm going to go somewhere else. So that's when they had a cycle where they kind of took their time with the evaluation, originally found Brock Lynn, then both mutually kind of parted ways. Brock Lynn ended up at Florida State, while Lincoln Kienholz, they found him late in the cycle. Now, Lincoln Kienholz, how did his career here go? He spent 2.5 years developing and then had a shot to win a job as a year 3 player here and lost it to a 5-star. But like, that's the only way it could have gone better for Lincoln here is if he would have won the job. Yeah. And he didn't win the job, but now he might be Louisville starting quarterback. I don't know if Brom has officially announced that yet, but I think that's just the assumption that he's going to be the starting quarterback at Louisville.
That's a very Julian say, or maybe not even that. Like, I feel that feels pretty obvious that like
but listen, until it's official, it's not official. Right. Dylan Raiola, that's a 5-star quarterback, and when they lost him, what did they go do? They went and got Aaron Nolan, who was a borderline 5-star quarterback. Tavian St. Clair is, yes, he's a 5-star, but he's also from your backyard. So it's like you're not really sure how to classify that one. And as you mentioned, took their time with Luke Fahey. Brady Edmonds was a 5-star quarterback the day he committed to Ohio State. So, like, what's happened since then is whatever. The point is, he was a 5. They went and got, like, let's go find the best quarterback we can find. And then, obviously, Chris Vargas, who is anywhere from 1 to 2 in every recruiting ranking you can find. I think that's a worthwhile question of, like, adapting of, hey, you want to build the best quarterback room in college football. How you go about putting the individual pieces in that room, has that had to evolve in a world where quarterback recruiting isn't getting any simpler anytime soon? And also, there's a financial aspect to this. Yeah. It has that changed so that you don't ever find yourself in a situation where you look up and you're not all that sure what the heck's going on with your quarterback room. Mm-hmm. And I get why the reason they build the quarterback room when they want the best they can find is, he said it one time, it's like, what if you're wrong one year? Because we've seen that. Clemson and Oklahoma during times in their tenures have been on like every other year, we're going to go get a dude. Yeah. And it was fine. And then DJ didn't pan out. Yeah. And you were stuck with that. And it was fine. And then Spencer Rattler didn't pan out. So then like it screwed you, right? So it's I get why you are like that. You don't ever want to put yourself in a position where it's like you're stuck with this option. You don't have options. You want to be able to let a battle go until at least the second or third week in the fall camp and feel like whoever comes out on top didn't win it by default. They won it because they were genuinely the best option you had. And so I get why, but in this element, how does that have to evolve? And so, yeah, I agree. It's for me, I don't know if it's as much about Chris Vargas and Brady Edmonds, because right now what this is setting up is Chris Vargas will be here in 28. And what I think most of us would assume will be Tavian St. Clair's second year as a starting quarterback. So right now, a potential room that has Tavian St. Clair as a 4th-year quarterback, second-year starter, Luke Fahey in his 3rd year in the program, Brady Edmonds in his 2nd year in the program, and Chris Vargas in his 1st year in the program. Yeah. Now, Is that going to be what the room is? Highly doubtful. That those are the 4 names in the room. Just highly doubtful. We have to be real about that. But is there a chance that 12 months later, Vargas, whatever has Vargas going up against insert quarterback heading into 2029 is probably where this is headed. Maybe that's Brady Edmonds in year 3, and we have the similar situation that we just had with Julian Sand and Tavian St. Clair. Or maybe it's Chris Vargas versus Luke Fahey. Or maybe it's Chris Vargas versus transfer. But if you're just going to go off simply what their recruiting pedigree is, whatever, if you're an Ohio State fan, you are probably thinking, whatever has Chris Vargas in a battle with the like tag of perceived winner of the battle, Chris Vargas in 2029, is the outcome most of us are probably thinking is going to happen here. So as long as that happens, you can probably figure out the rest of the room around him.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the way that I would kind of map this out is like, okay, you have 2026 set, 2027 Tavian. I think we feel pretty good about that. I don't want to entertain the headache of like, what if Julian doesn't declare? Like, I don't want to have that conversation right now. So let's just say
but if Julian doesn't declare, I don't think that impacts Chris Vargas at all. That impacts Tavian.
I don't think it does. I think it impacts the room, because then what happens to Tavian and what?
And that's all. Like, that's all like lead up. If we're just going to talk strictly about, hey, what does Chris Vargas committing the first weekend of August mean? It means in August of 2029, Ryan Day better be heading to a podium at some point and being like, Chris Vargas is our next starting quarterback as a second-year player, first-year starter. Everything that happens from now to then is just setting up what the room around him might look like.
Yeah, right. And I think where we're headed is like Tavian 27 and then 28. It is unfair to ask Christopher Vargas, and I think any quarterback at Ohio State, to start as a true freshman. I don't care how good they are. Like, I don't know if Ohio State would ever do that, just considering the landscape of college football and things like that. So it's going to be AKA Tavian or transfer, I would guess. And then you get to 29, and I think you're having a conversation of somewhat similar to what we had in 2025 of 5-star second-year quarterback in Chris Vargas, and third year entering his second year in 29, and then 4-star, third-year quarterback in Brady Edmonds. And I think that's probably the battle that I think Ohio State would like to have in 29, because you got a third-year guy who can push Vargas, and Vargas can push Brady. And hell, if Ohio State gets to 2029 and they look around and they have like honest conversations with themselves and they say Brady Edmonds is better and we like Brady Edmonds as our starting quarterback, like, I don't think they're going to be boo-hooing in the streets because, oh no, I think they're like, if they think Brady Edmonds is better than what Christopher Vargas is, maybe it's, oh no, it was a misevaluation with Vargas, or maybe it just means Brady Edmonds panned out. But the other part of this too, that when I wrote down Christopher Vargas means ... because I think there's a quarterback conversation, but I think there's also an element of getting a quarterback in a class so early. You've already landed a running back in Elijah Newman Hall. You've already landed a 5-star receiver in Jet Harrison. And with Austin Miller in 2029, the expected 5-star, and who's maybe in the running for the number 1 overall player in the class, like, I don't know if Ohio State's getting in the Bryson Wright conversation, the number 1 overall player in 2028, but I am keeping an eye on Braylon Clark, kid out of Charlotte, 5-star receiver, really, really, really good. He was at a camp last summer in 2025. I really liked him. Lorenzo McMullen, the kind of 4.5-star, he's like a top 30 player, top 25 player. In 2028, he's from Cincinnati. He just recently got an Ohio State offer. Communication is picked up from Ohio State on his side, and it's like, I am wondering if you're going to build a class of skill. We talked about 2027 being a class of beef with offensive and defensive line. I am wondering if building a class of skill means having a quarterback so early in the fold is a really good thing, because then you can look around and say, hey, Jet, Jet's a unique example, obviously, with his brother, but hey, Jet, we're going to bring in this guy. And hey, rest of the world, look at this quarterback we've got coming in that you're going to be on the same timeline with. And I think the way that Ohio State could be approaching it, which is, I said this on our other video when we talked about Vargas's commitment, I don't want to be in the business of, if Ohio State lands 3-3-star offensive linemen in 2028, be like, oh, Tyler Bowen, he stinks at recruiting now. And Tim Walton, oh, he's the greatest recruiter in the world now. Like, I think this is by design. And if you're going to do that, I think what Ohio State is probably going to be able to sell is a skill position class that's centered by your quarterback, and that can help kind of influence a lot of other options. So maybe 2028 is where you land another blue chip receiver, and all this idea of, hey, well, you can't land 3 5-stars. Well, maybe you can land 2. And
I think
maybe that is what happens in 28.
Yeah, I think Chris Vargas is the most important quarterback to Ohio State's future. Like, of any quarterback currently associated with it. It's not,
Oh, sure,
and it has
yeah.
nothing to do with his class. It's about quarterback. Like, sure, get a good quarterback and good receivers, and I want to play with them. Sure, this is about, I'm looking at Ohio State's quarterback history, and it's been anything but linear at all. Like, whether it's like constantly having to go to Plan B, like CJ Stroud is technically a Plan B because Jack Miller didn't work out. Justin Fields is Plan B because DeJuan Mathis, who you flipped, didn't work out. Matthew Baldwin was Plan B because Emory Jones flipped. Tate Martell was Plan B because Danny Clark maybe took him too early and he wasn't what you thought he was going to be. Dwayne Haskins was Plan B because you thought you had Twiston Wallace, but instead he wanted to go play wide receiver. Devin Brown was Plan B because Quinn Ewers reclassified. Lincoln Keenholz is Plan B because Brock Glenn didn't work out. Aaron Nolan is Plan B because Dylan Raiola didn't work out. Julian Sand's not even a plan.
Julian Sand is Plan Saban.
He's not. Like, I was there. You tried to pivot to him after Dylan Raiola decommitted, and Julian was like, nah, I'm going to go play for Saban. And then Saban stopped existing. So he's not even a plan for you. He's just very good. Tavian's a plan. He's also from Ohio. So there is, and you don't always want to context people to death and to take away accomplishments. But it is very true. If Tavian weren't at Ohio State right now, that is more of a discussion than Tavian St. Clair being at Ohio State. He has a chance to be normal. He's also from Ohio. That context does matter. It's no different than if LSU gets a high-end defensive back who's from New Orleans. It's like, good job. It's also like, you should be doing that. You should be getting guys from New Orleans to stay and play for LSU. Luke Fahey he's a different plan. But how many other quarterbacks did Ohio State look at before it got to Fahey? And that's not a diss at Fahey. It's just that's the way they approached that class. They took their time with that class. Brady Edmonds was a plan, and then they almost pivoted from it. In fact, they were actively looking at doing to him what they did with Jack Miller and bringing in a second guy. And are they done doing that? Are we 1,000% sure that Brady Emmons will be he shut down his recruitment, but are we 1,000% sure that he's going to be the only quarterback? Or are we like pretty sure, but like, we're still kind of on the lookout for it. You guys cover, I don't. Kyle McCord, that was a plan. He was the second ever player to commit to Ryan Day's Ohio State. He did it like 2 months after Jack Sawyer did. He spent 2 years developing. After being committed for 18 months, got on the field. It was going perfectly. He was 11-0 headed to Ann Arbor. And they lost. And the plan fell apart because now he ended up at Syracuse. So it was everything was good up until the finish line. So Chris Vargas is committed in August. He's going to sign next December, assuming nothing insane happens over the next 14 months at a position where something is always going insane. And anybody who covers Ohio State, I'm sure, is speaking as if 2029 is the target date. Who do they play? Who do they open the season with in 2029?
That's a great question. Let's see. 2029. They open with the Navy Midshipmen in Columbus, Ohio.
I gotta see something real quick. Who did they play?
Navy, Charlotte, and Youngstown State. They actually don't have a big
The last
non-conference game because that I think 2029. Yeah, 2029 is they have a gap year, so it's a little bit like 23 or 2022, 2023 they had Notre Dame. 2024 they had a gap year where they didn't play anybody, and then 25 and 26 they have Texas.
I just stumbled into a story idea, and it's off the back of, ironically enough,
Can
JT
Christopher
Barrett.
Vargas run the triple option?
No, God no. It's on the back of JT Barrett becoming a Hall of Famer at Ohio State.
Oh,
the last time Ohio State played Navy was the last time it had a normal a planned quarterback situation.
I was gonna ask you like when
even that's not totally a plan because JT Barrett has to start a year early because Braxton Miller pops his shoulder out of place for the umpteenth time. Yeah. But like that's where we're like. But the point I'm making, and we can get into that later on. Like, but the point I'm making is most of us would probably believe that Christopher Vargas on September 1st, 2029, as the schedule is right now, maybe we'll have some changes and that gets moved up to where originally week 0 is. But for right now, September 1st, 2029 in Ohio Stadium when Navy comes to town, that is supposed to be the debut of Christopher Vargas as Ohio State starting quarterback. So assuming we get there and Christopher Vargas lives up and is exactly what his recruiting pedigree suggests he can be, and we saw him in person. He looks like a dude who's going to be a future first-round draft pick. If he is all of that, that will be the most normal, on schedule, on time, planned Ohio State football quarterback recruitment in over a decade.
Cool. and like and you know, like I think there's so and just I think maybe we can wrap this part with this. I think there's like a lot of people who are probably sitting there like, tell me why they won't eventually pivot to a plan B, and I can't. Like I don't know.
I don't think they can. Not saying not saying they can't physically do it.
Yeah.
I do not think it would be great if they have to pivot to a plan B because that's why I am saying you get your quarterback early. Ideally, like Dave said this before, you get your guy on the offense who's typically your quarterback, and then you get like a NFL valuable position on defense, and you build around those two positions, and that's how you build a recruiting class. When he did that in 2021, he had the best recruiting class Ohio State's ever seen with Jack and Kyle McCord. So yeah, logically speaking, of course, that's no different than the NFL draft where like you either build your entire organization around your quarterback or around an edge rusher. I get it. That stuff's normal. He is important for a whole other element that is very unique it's not completely unique, but has become a trend at Ohio State of they get an early quarterback who's pretty good, and it like really didn't matter at the end of the day because a whole bunch of other stuff just started happening around him. But the way things are shaping up, it's the way I talk about Devin Sanchez. How many things have happened to have make sure that Devin Sanchez is a starting cornerback for Ohio State in 2026? That's how I view the Chris Vargas situation. And everything that happens over the next 3 years in some capacity is going to be happening with us thinking in the back of our minds that Chris Vargas, when Navy comes to Columbus on September 1st, 2029, is going to be their starting quarterback.
St. Clair could be normal. Correct. I was not here for his recruitment. I showed up in August.
But again, as I said earlier, he's from here. So it's just that you don't devalue it, but you also, that context matters.
I'm not trying to, I'm not, like you said, I'm not trying to like the line you had about like context and like poo-pooing people's accomplishments. I'm not trying to do that. But like when they took Tavian, he was like won something in the class. Like he was not 5-star top 10.
No, sure. Again, but it still goes back. He's from Ohio. So like there is an element of, it is a factually true statement that often when a kid grows up in Ohio, he grew up dreaming of playing for Ohio State.
Yeah.
So that is an extra gear that everybody else doesn't get. Just like if you grow up in Louisiana, you probably grew up dreaming of playing for LSU. That's an extra gear that the Tigers have that everybody else doesn't have. So that's my Vargas spiel. He's very talented. He's a very big dude already. So that's just that's how I'm going to be viewing things in that lens of like, All right, man, whatever gets us to 2029 and Chris Vargas is under center, you can figure out the other 4 or 5 spots in your quarterback room. But like that's the way this is set up right now, is that Chris Vargas, redshirt freshman, is throwing the ball to Jameer Brown and Jet Harrison and Austin Miller and on down the line there.
Yeah.
What's number 3?
Yeah, I went kind of big picture with all these things because, like, I don't know, like, could we have gotten on here and I could have had a 30-minute conversation about, like, which running backs Ohio State could go after in 2027? Absolutely. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, I wanted to go a little bit big picture, and I want to take a look at 2028 because you kind of took the words out of my mouth earlier when you said you've got your first-round guys, the dudes that you just say, yep, and the dudes that you just say, gotta take them now. Mm-hmm. And if, like, there are certain kids where in today's recruiting world, you know, I think most of our listeners know this and most of our viewers know this. You get a scholarship offer from any school. It's not always I can take this and commit right now. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. And I think there's this element of recruiting where there are certain kids that you look at and say, we are giving you this offer because we believe in you and we want to see where things go and we want to have you want to visit in the next couple of weeks and yada, yada, yada. But, like, then we'll talk about a commitment. There are also certain kids where it's, we offered you a scholarship. If you commit right now, please. Like, for example, a David Gabriel George was that type of kid. Like, if David Gabriel George told Ohio State, you know, the summer of 2025 that he would like to commit, they would have taken it. Mm-hmm. Like that, there are those kids. So, with that in mind being 2028, I want to see how the 2028 class operates in terms of what type of kids those might be, because I think this is going to be a fun class to talk about. I think there's an element of 2027 where you look at the offensive and defensive lines and you can really, really, really get excited about that because you could say they have 6 offensive linemen. They've got a massive defensive line, like literally in terms of size and both in terms of recruiting stature. But I think it's a little like getting, when you're a kid, you know, you get like a really cool shirt and jeans and pants or whatever, and you're like, yeah, like I love this t-shirt. This is a really great t-shirt. But when somebody asks what you got for Christmas, you're going to tell them about the video game you got or the electronic that you got or the bright, shiny toy. And I think there might be a few of those in 2028. Like I said, I'm looking at Braylon Clark, 5-star receiver. I'm looking at Lorenzo McMullen, top 30 receiver in the class. They've got a few other offers of top 100 kids. Like, I think if there were a class for Ohio State to go after another blue chipper at that position, this would be it. You know, we've talked so much about, you know, Ohio State kind of adding, you know, 1 5-star and then maybe moving on. But I do wonder if this is the class where you can say, hey, we've got Jet Harrison, and then we can go add Lorenzo McMullen. And then all of a sudden you've got a 2028 receiver room that has Chris Henry Jr., Brock Boyd, Jameer Brown, Jet Harrison, Lorenzo McMullen. And all of a sudden you're going, oh, so maybe Ohio State in the NIL world is just never going to be different at receiver, despite, you know, maybe caution and despite maybe worry about, you know, what that could be. I'm looking at corner. You had eyes on him more than I did at one of the recruiting camps. Jermaine Cobbins, the corner from Tennessee.
Very long.
Yeah, long. He's listed at 6 feet tall. I would like another check on that. But he's a number 23 overall player. He's somebody that Ohio State obviously had on campus, and they really like. Gage Weddle is a top 50 player in the class, the son of Eric Weddle. I wrote a big story about him in June. I think this is the class for Ohio State to where, you know, you're obviously going to need your development options, right? Like, you're obviously, you know, like a Jordan Woods, maybe, you know, in this example, like a lower rated guy who comes in and, you know, you say, okay, let's see what we got here in 2-3 years. You know, sure. But I do think Ohio State is going to be really, really in the mix for some of these big time national skill position recruits. And I think this could be really exciting for fans. As much as offensive line and defensive line talk gets me excited and gets a lot of other people excited just because of what that means for the floor of your team, I think this could really elevate Ohio State's ceiling, and I think there could be some big movement here in the fall over what happens in 2028, and that's aided by the fact that you already have a 5-star quarterback in the mix.
I'm going to close with 2 questions. Who is the commit you are most concerned about right now?
The commit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in any class?
Absolutely.
I guess 2028.
Non-quarterback related, because quarterback its own weirdness.
Yeah. It's a good question. And you mean concern as in flipping, I would assume.
Yeah.
DJ Jacobs, I think. Because the reason I have concerns there is I know for a fact that Ohio State has done a good job recruiting him. I know for a fact that like behind the scenes there was a lot of effort put into that. I know for a fact that he's got NFL bloodlines in his family, and we've talked about this on this pod with Weddle and with Timmons and with some of these other guys. Like they have like maybe a more holistic, long range view of what this could be and how they want to go to the development schools and this and that. But the thing that would just concern me is you've got a Southern kid and he's locked into Ohio State. His dad has given interviews where he said, he's locked into Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
But if there was ever a kid that somebody throws truly crazy money at, it would be him.
It's a dude who looks like 17-year-old Chase Young.
Yeah, right? And I want to be very clear as I say this. I'm not trying to clickbait. I'm not trying to make fans upset. I want to be honest here. I think Ohio State's fine. Like, I think Ohio State is done really good. DJ Jacobs is very well compensated. Like, he's not going to play for Ohio State for free. Like, I get it. They've done really good, and there's no indication right now that DJ Jacobs is on flip watch or whatever, despite what other people might, try to drum up drama for clicks or for whatever reason on the internet. I get it. His dad literally gave an interview where he said he's locked in with Ohio State right now. The thing, though, that I just have always kind of thought is like, I mean, we felt Edric Houston was pretty good until the last week, and then things got weird. And Jeremiah Smith, the recruitment, that was always weird, and people started throwing money at him like crazy. And it's just, what happens at the end of the line when you have a kid from Georgia who's the number 1 overall player at his position and a top 5 player in the class who plays a premier position? And what happens when you have the schools that are involved? Miami's involved, Tennessee's involved. Like, I say this not as a fan should be nervous because he's actively taking visits or anything like that. I say this as like I'm looking over my shoulder here, and you just have that thought of like, what if something screwy happens? So maybe that's just me being anxious. Maybe that's just me giving fans anxiety for no reason. But the players involved have you thinking, okay, there's a shot that we have a really annoying conversation.
Tennessee is a special place, man. What a special place.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it just happened. Like it just happened where there's like all this,
Listen, I mean,
that was what was scaring me.
It's harder to land a kid than it is to keep him, though. So I get that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It is interesting because essentially what I'm asking you is like, it's not about DJ Jacobs. It's more about whose phone's not going to stop ringing until you sign the piece of paper.
His. I know for a fact that his phone is currently like ringing.
Right, but because even Chris Henry Jr.'s phone started ringing, but that's because something happened the day of.
Yes.
I don't think there was a guy in last year's class whose like phone just didn't stop ringing because it didn't stop ringing, no matter what they said publicly. JJ's phone was never going to stop ringing. Edric's phone started, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think it was ringing loudly until it was near signing. Because obviously, everybody gets desperate. early signing period kicks in, and all of a sudden people just start throwing whatever at kids, and that's a very different thing versus
give me a number. That's what that.
Versus, well, it's May 1st, phone still ringing. June 1st, phone still ringing. September 1st, the phone is still ringing. Hey, insert 5-star who's committed to this school. Everything good? Yeah. I mean, y'all ask me that every 3 weeks, and I tell you everything is good, and yet y'all keep asking me. Phone's ringing again. Phone's ringing again. Phone's ringing again. It just never stops ringing. And DJ Jacobs, I understand if it seems like he fits that description. And so, I mean, you're just going to be on edge until he signs.
Right, exactly.
And then it's over.
Unless he comes out and says people should really stop calling me. I'm
sure, but even then, would you stop calling?
I guess, yeah. And look, and I think this is a credit to Ohio State and to some of the other kids in the class. Like, Jameer has already locked down his commitment. Like, I've talked to him like on the record multiple times, and people got to stop. I'm good. Like, you run through some of the other top commits, and they're
I think that like the phone never stops ringing conversation is kind of reserved for about 2 guys, maybe a cycle, if that. And they're not always associated with Ohio State. Like, I don't know, David Gabriel George is committed 3 weeks ago, and I just read a story yesterday of, hey, phone still ringing.
Almost, yeah.
Like, he still has to, that's not at every recruit, even if you're a 5-star conversation. That's like, there's like 2 people a class where, for whatever the reason is, maybe you're contributing to it, maybe you're not, but you've made it abundantly clear where you stand. Your phone's just going to keep ringing until it doesn't stop ringing. That's one. My other one is, which current commit at their current ranking, and maybe this is more 28-7 than 28, because I don't know, like, Jameer Weiss is going to outplay his number 30 ranking in the country. Like, okay, he's a first round.
In 28, they've got 4 top 100 kids.
Yeah, it's just we're too early for it doesn't seem like any of those guys are going to drop. In fact, Elijah Newman Hall's like climbing. Which 2027 recruit, if you had to mark it down right now, is going to drastically outplay their current ranking?
I love Eli Johnson.
Okay.
And Eli Johnson is, let me pull up my class ranking.
246 and 19 amongst the safeties.
We all have our weaknesses in sports. We all see a type of player in any particular sport, and you just you gravitate towards them. For example, in baseball, they might not be the most effective players, they might not be the most productive players, but I love the players that get up to the plate and swing hard and hope you hit it. And you hit it either 475 feet or you hit it 0 feet because you strike out. Adam Dunn, great example. I love long physical safeties. And Eli Johnson at 6'3", 205 is that. I think this kid is really, really good. Eli Johnson is someone that I will get eyes on when we go see Ohio State and Texas. Cibolo Steel, they play, I believe they play Lake Travis the night before Ohio State, Texas, which is like for those that don't know, it is like a massive like high school football game in Texas. Those are 2 like really good programs. I mean, look, he's tall, he's long, he is physical. The long-term development of him might not be linebacker like Sonny. Like, I think everybody, like, anytime there's a safety now that's 6'3" or taller, I think Ohio State fans for a couple of years are going to say, oh, so when is he going to move to linebacker? And I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but I do think that Eli being that type of player where it's like, man, straight line speed is great. He's a track athlete. Give me a year, like give me like a year and a half, and I trust Matt Guerreri and this secondary coaching staff to turn him into a player that, I don't know, by 2028, by 2029, you're looking at and going, my goodness gracious, is this kid really not just like a really good football player, but is this kid really changing the math on what Ohio State can do? We've mentioned on our defensive, stuff, and when we've talked about fall camp, like the idea of playing a lot more 4-3 in 2026 for Ohio State. I think he is maybe a counter to having a third linebacker on the field where it's maybe he's your third safety and he kind of operates as that. Like, I think Eli's going to be really good, and I really, really like him as a prospect.
He's listed at 6'3", 205. Sonny was 6'4", 215, and just physically walk. Are we gonna? Is the plan to go see him while we're in Austin?
The night before, yeah.
I think I might join you. Just to see him in person, because that's the thing. James was doing something. He was on a show with somebody, and I saw a clip of it, and he was talking about Sonny and taking him from safety to linebacker, and he was just like, I saw, and he had said this to us too, so it's not like this was a revolutionary thing, but it's the way he was putting it right there because it was in my face. I saw a kid who was trying way too hard to stay light and eating salads and a bunch of that stuff when, I don't know, his dad is a freaking linebacker. How about we just let him eat a couple burgers and put an extra 10 pounds on and call it a day instead of like trying to force it? Same, G. Scott was sort of the same way where it's like, okay, yeah, you're a wide receiver right now, but your body is telling you, hey, I would like to add 15 pounds to myself. And not like the way you add 15 pounds when you're getting older and you're not playing sports. Like 15 pounds just of like healthy weight. I would like to add that to my body, please. Please stop starving me so you can play a position that you're not meant to play. Feed me. And he was comparing it to Kyle Hamilton because he was talking about how he had just gotten to Notre Dame as Kyle Hamilton was walking out the door. So he got a chance to interact with Kyle while Kyle was going through his draft preparation and stuff like that. And Kyle, the thing about Kyle Hamilton is he's super lean.
Yeah.
Even now that he's 220, he doesn't look 220 out there. He was like 195 when he got to Notre Dame. He's 220 now, but he's a lean 225. Sonny Styles is not a lean 245. Sonny Styles is built like a Greek god. Okay, so perhaps it was kind of the same thing with Isaiah Simmons because Isaiah Simmons is sort of built like Sonny Styles, so you thought he could do it. It's like, no, put him at linebacker and stop starving him, please. And so just to see Eli Johnson in person, to get a idea of at 6'3", 205, is that a 205 lean? And we're going to be looking at him and going, yeah, dude, you're going to turn 21 and Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature does. Or is he 225 and that's like, okay, well, like he's just kind of a leaner body type. So you can move him. You can put him at strong safety and free safety in this defense. Because that's the key. When you got these dudes who look like they could turn into either, is remembering that they are 17 years old. And they are not going to be that skinny when they are 21 years old.
And add into that, like, you're saying like, oh, he's going to outplay his ranking. And like, that was the original base of the question. And it's like, okay, so Eli, like, let's say we get there and like you and I do one of these, like we look at it, like, feel like we do that from time to time. Like
we did it at, so.
Yeah, we do. We're kind of on the same page, so we kind of look at each other. We know.
So here's what happens here, and I'm glad it happened on Saturday when we were at practice. The way you see us three interact on this pod, it ain't that different from how we react.
We had a fan tell us.
But that's the thing. This is some people who listen to the pod were like, "Oh, so you guys are really like this?" And it's like, yeah, this is not. Yes, it's. We try to be a little bit more professional because professionals and all that stuff. But like the genuineness that comes off in the pod that you can feel is because this is a real conversation we are having. There just happens to be a microphone right here. So continue. There is a chance we walk in the Steele High School in Cibolo, Texas, and we look at each other and we're like, yeah. Or we might look at each other and go, oh, okay.
And I can see the vision. Way, I think 6'3" safety that's going to hit 210, 215. And then like, we're like, all right, yeah, he's actually, that's it. That's fascinating to me. Or do we leave there and there's a story on cleveland.com on Monday morning after that game going, does Ohio State have its next Sonny Styles in its recruiting class? Because we're looking at this kid going like, this kid might just play middle linebacker. And then it becomes, either way. Fascinating to me, and I think the upside's crazy.
And the latter conversation is interesting because it's like, I don't know if we can notice that right now. Do they just get to it?
Yeah, right. Instead of just easier. Yeah.
Instead of spending 2 years playing Sonny at safety, maybe you just spend 2 years. Hey, Eli, you're going to learn the system, and you're going to eat, and you're going to lift, and then you're going to look up in 2029, and we're going to throw you on the field, and you're going to be as productive as humanly possible. That's why. Yeah, That's interesting that you went there with the ranking, because I'm definitely just like, that's the one dude in this class I am the most intrigued to physically see in person.
Yeah.
So I can get a better idea of like what he is as a
He
football
might be
player.
the most moldable ball of clay in Ohio State's class. Like, I think that might be the best way to say that. Like,
Yeah, I would say him and Marcus Fakatawu, just because he's 6'7".
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Sure.
Like most 6'7" dudes are guarding Klay Thompson.
Sure.
So yes, I agree. These guys that are like body types where they can do this or they can do that. And some of it is how do they develop, but some of it is just simply like sitting back and letting just nature do what it does.
Yeah.
Because these are still kids, and so that still matters. Okay, that was a great conversation. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. That will probably be the last time we do full-fledged recruiting, like hour-long, for a while, because the focus, as Ohio State does, shifts to what is going on the field. But we will have some video elements still, so subscribe to the YouTube channel, I don't know if there's other things you do. Maybe I should learn that. Like, hey, all the things you should be telling people to do.
Subscribe. That's a big one.
Subscribe.
Anytime we post a video, you want to know about it.
Yeah. Comment. Say all the things. Get the text. Read us at cleveland.com/OSU. We'll be seeing some of these kids in person as Ohio State's playing a much more prominent schedule. I don't know. There's 2 5-stars in California. So maybe we need to have some conversations about which 5-star to go see. But it is what it is. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. For Andrew Gillis, I'm Steven Means. See you guys later.